So we're now recording, which kind of connects to my other caveat, which is not as big as it has been in the past. I think I'm getting a little bit better with technology, but there's still sometimes things happen. But I think try to manage all this. Hopefully we don't get any interruptions, and Zoom works well for us today. And we're able to kind of connect and monitor the chat features pretty well. So, and Jeanette, thank you for agreeing to join us for this week's discussion. And I wanted to start off by asking you about, because you're working from home like we all are, and you have kids, right, in the house that you're having those dual responsibilities. And from a professional and also a personal perspective, can you talk about the importance of self-care for parents during this time when we're all kind of like working from home and we have all these kind of stresses of parenting and working that are kind of blending at the same time?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Well, hello to everyone. Thank you all for being a part of this. And yes, so I'll tell you a little bit about me. So I am a parent. I have 2 children, and they're both teenagers. They're both, well, my son will be entering 9th grade, so that's exciting, and my daughter will be going into 11th grade this coming year. And so, yeah, it's been quite a transition going from having everyone, normal life to this life during this pandemic. And yeah, self-care has always been an area, and wellness have always been an area of priority for me. And so now more than ever, I almost relish the fact that I'm learning. I can't say I've learned. I'm always learning and understanding the importance of prioritizing wellness. And so to understand, I think, where I am now, I'll give you a little bit of background about me. So how I became interested in wellness was I was a school counselor, and I was working at an elementary school. And during that time, I had small children at that time. This was about 10 or 11 years ago. And I was just, full-time working, going to work, coming home, being with the kids, and realizing that, thinking I can do it all, thinking that I could handle, multiple duties, multiple jobs, multiple roles. Didn't think there was a problem at all. At work, they had asked me to do, oh, Antoinette, you did so well with this committee, or you did so well with this, can you do this? And I said, yeah, sure. And so I was taking on more and more, and still being a parent and trying to balance it all, and thinking that I was on my way. And then one day I remember I was organizing a red ribbon event for my school. And I had brought in a drum singing ceremony to teach the kids about stress relief and things like that. And while I'm watching the drum ceremony going on, and I'm so proud that the week's events went well, I remember like touching my hair and feeling clumps of my hair start falling out. And I thought that was odd. I said, oh, that's odd. What, why are these clumps of my hair coming out? And I said, that's interesting. I didn't think really anything of it, but it did stay on my mind. And I said, I'm going to go see the doctor. And so I ended up going to the doctor, and they ran all these tests on me. And basically what they found was that thank goodness this was not the case, but I had some sort of autoimmune disease that at that point, what he thought was incurable. And he said that stress, the multiple jobs that I was taking on, the roles I was taking on, was compounding everything. And I said, but I can handle it. And he said, no, you can't. Your body is talking to you. Your body is telling you your hair's falling out. You're exhausted. You're weak. You're drinking coffee like crazy. He's like, you're not making your health a priority. So at that time, that was, like I said, a little over 10 years ago, I began to learn about wellness. And I said, I want to be here. I want to be here for my children. I want to be able to balance everything. So that's when I learned about, mindfulness and self-care and exercise and nutrition. And so since then, I have humbly started to integrate each of those components into my life. and I'm still here. So that's excellent. I've been able to figure out a way to handle the stress in my life where it's not adversely affecting my body. And I'm more present. I'm more thankful. I'm more grateful for every moment that I have on this earth and with my children. So that's so for me, the importance of self-care is deep rooted. It's a priority because I feel like for parents, for humans, that if we're not healthy, then we can't really experience all there is, in life, the stressors and the joy. So that's a little bit of background about me, but I think it's important that you guys know my perspective and my lens of where I'm coming from when I'm giving you my journey and what I've gone through.
So, can you talk a little bit about, the stresses of parenting and maybe how in this unique situation that we're in, how that can add to the importance of self-care?
Yeah, so I think for that question, I'm going to move a little bit to what an area of self-care that has really transformed my relationship with my children, my relationship with myself, my relationship with my job, and that's my growing awareness and interest in mindfulness. So for me, self-care is very broad. When I think of self-care, I think of nutrition, I think of relationships, I think of my spirituality, and then I also think of, for me personally, how becoming more interested in how to be more mindful and more present has directly impacted in a positive way my own self-care and my relationship with my kids. And so for me, I became interested in mindfulness about 10 years ago when I was looking for ways to handle my stress that I didn't realize I was going through. And so for me, mindfulness is just really a priority. And so when I know we all talk about, I'm sure we all hear about mindfulness everywhere, and which is good, but many times it's just this word that is said, but people don't quite understand what it is. So I'd like to kind of talk a little bit about how mindfulness impacts me. So for me, mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment with kindness, non-judgmentally. And it's as simple, right, and as difficult as that. And so when I say being mindful, for me, it is using all of my senses, my 5 senses, to experience everyday, ordinary experiences, but in a rich, really appreciative, grateful way. And so it's to being aware and awake in the present moment. And so for me, what I have found is that learning how to be mindful, be in the moment, has helped me reduce my stress, because in this moment, everything is okay, right? So it's when I start thinking about the future, like the coronavirus, something's in the future, or I start worrying about the past, that's when my stress and anxiety elevates for me. But when I'm in the moment right now, when I'm with you, I'm fine. Like my stress level is dissipated because I'm okay. And so mindfulness for me has really impacted how I parent, because when I catch myself thinking, and we all think because it's perfectly normal to think, right? But when I catch myself thinking, that's being mindful. So the coolest thing I've ever learned about mindfulness is the moment you notice that you're thinking, you're mindful. And so what happens is many of us are so associated with our thoughts that we don't even realize we're thinking about the future, ruminating about the past, and that's where our stress comes from. So for me, mindfulness and meditation specifically has kind of taught me how to be in the moment for longer periods of moments, like seconds, maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and then I start thinking again. But when I'm in the moment, I'm okay, and my emotions are not overtaking me. so I can problem solve. So mindfulness for parenting has really helped me understand how to respond to a situation rather than react to a situation, if that makes sense. And so that moment where I can be mindful in the moment, I'm in touch with how I'm feeling. I'm able to, I have a bigger perspective, and I'm able to parent from a more loving, caring, not fearful way.
The way you're describing that seems to me is it's not like this where you say, okay, I'm going to get away for 30 minutes or for 20 minutes and I'm going to be just mindful and I'm going to do that for myself. And then I'll go back to parenting and I'll be the normal, which seems like what you're talking about is being mindful in your everyday life. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, and thank you. Yes, and I can give you an example. Just the other day, my son, he is going into high school, and he really wants to go hang out with his friends and play basketball. And I keep telling him, I said, we're in a pandemic. I said, you can't go play basketball. And so, and he hasn't seen his friends for months. And so he asked me if he could go to the basketball courts at Franklin High School. And I said, no, you cannot go to the basketball courts at Franklin High School. So then I thought it was done. Then so he was upstairs and I was downstairs, and he texts me and he says, why can't I go to the basketball courts? And I said, because you can't, and I thought it was done. Then he comes down again and he says, all my friends are going to the basketball courts at Franklin High School. So in that moment, so what happened was, and I explained to him how I use my mindfulness there, and it helped me. And this is how I use it and integrate it into my parenting. So in that moment, I felt like I had this space between, and I believe it was Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. He had written about Viktor Frankl, and he had written in his book about how he was able to persist in these Nazi concentration camps, how meaning really played a part into his ability to stay alive and persist. And the analogy he used, and I really like it, it talks about there's a stimulus, which is the adversity or my son asking me questions over and over, or the challenge that you have, right? And then there's the response that anybody of us has. So you have a stimulus and you have a response. And in the middle, you have a little space, a tiny space. And in that space, that's where your power is. That's where you have the ability to choose. And in that, you have the ability to choose how to respond, right? And so most of us, it's just natural, it's how we're conditioned. Our space is like barely any space, right? It's tiny. So we have stimulus and we have response. And that's where we might say, I said no, or we might give that kind of response. For me, and I can only speak for me, mindfulness has allowed me to, in my power, in that space in between stimulus and response, it's made it a little bit wider, right? And so now because I meditate, and meditate is just training your brain to stay in the to go back to the present moment more easily and more quickly. So I've been able to train my brain to stay in my power just a second or two longer. And when I'm in the present moment, in that power spot, I have the bigger picture. Like I'm able to, so when my son asked me again, can I go to the basketball court? I literally, in like those 3 seconds, thought, oh my goodness, I'm starting to get angry. But why am I getting angry? I'm getting angry because I'm scared for him, because I love him so much and I don't want him to get sick. And I don't know how to express this to him. And so I was processing this in all this time. And then I was able to respond to him and take a deep breath and say, you know what? I can feel my body, Jackson, starting to get angry. And it's really because I'm scared, because I love you so much. And I see it also gives me perspective. I even said to him, I can tell that you miss your friends. I totally get it. You're a 14-year-old boy. You want to be with your friends, but you have to, I understand your perspective, and I'm trying to want you to see my perspective. That's what mindfulness has done for me in parenting. It's allowed that moment between stimulus and response, my power, just to be a little bit wider so that I can respond rather than react, I guess.
Yeah, as you said, a whole bunch of things there were really good. And just for anyone who wants to look it up, mention Viktor Frankl there, and without going into a whole bunch, there's a book, Man's Search for Meaning, that he wrote. if anyone's interested in looking at that further. Um, and so that space that you talk about, you're saying that your time alone, is it fair to say that you need to dedicate some time alone to yourself to develop the ability to open up that space and to be able to work in that little space between the stimulus and response?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So mindfulness is about not it's not about not thinking, right? Like a lot of knots there. It's about noticing. It's the awareness. It's noticing that you're thinking, and that's the many times we are so connected to our thoughts that we don't even know that we're thinking. It's just this autopilot going on. So when we meditate is a way to increase our mindfulness, I guess, in everyday life. When we meditate, for me, it helps me to come back to the present moment, realize that I'm thinking, come back to the present moment, and then get in touch with my emotions.
Okay.
How am I feeling? What's going on in my body? So that's, yeah.
Is there also, Mark had a question about talking about breath and breathing. So I'm also seeing what you're talking about a lot is the cognitive process of being aware of your thoughts on it, but how do you focus on the bodily, the physiological kind of stuff?
So good. Yeah, that's really important. So I do a breath meditation. And so when I meditate, what brings me back to the present moment is the focus on my breath. And so the connection to my body. And so there's a way when I meditate, I come back to my breath. I notice I'm thinking, and that's okay. I'll kind of smile at myself and notice I'm thinking, and then come back to my breath. And when I'm in the present moment, sometimes I'm in the present moment for 5 seconds, sometimes in the present moment for a second. But I do it all with kindness, right? And so the important thing about mindfulness and meditation is that what you're doing is you're doing it for as a way to bring kindness, to bring self-care, to bring loving to yourself. And so you practice meditation in order to have that awareness, be able to access the present moment, and be able to stay in the present moment for just a little bit longer each time.
And could you just expand a little bit about the mechanics of the breathing, or
Yeah. Well, what I could do, which might be more helpful, because mindfulness is one of those things, it's like, I can tell you what an apple is. I can tell you that it's green and that it's juicy and that it's got a tough shell and a soft interior, but it's not, but when you eat an apple, it's completely different, right? And you get it. So if it's okay with everyone, we could do a brief breath meditation together.
Sure, I think that'll be something we can all try.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes it's easier to do it and then experience it and then feel. And this is optional. So if you would like to do this breath meditation, you can. If you don't want to do it, you can just listen without participating. But what it's going to entail is it'll be a few minutes long, and I usually close my eyes when I do it, and you can close your eyes when you do it, or you could just lower your gaze, whatever you feel more comfortable doing. And I'm going to say, it's going to be like a guided meditation. So I'm going to be talking during it, and you'll be hearing my voice, and I'll be guiding you on how to use your breath as an anchor for the present moment. And so hopefully by the end, you'll have a better kind of idea of what I'm saying about how being in the present moment and using my breath as an access point has helped me. Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll begin. So hopefully everybody's just seated in their seats. You can choose to put your hands on your lap. You can have them folded in front of you, whatever feels more comfortable. And you can choose to, like I said, lower your gaze, or you can close your eyes, whatever feels right. So go ahead and just get comfortable in your chair. You want to keep your posture straight, but not too straight. You want to be comfortable, but still alert. And just go ahead and just feel the connection with your body seated in the chair. And slowly just try to start just relaxing. We're going to start with your feet. You can slowly, just gently rock your feet ever so gently back and forth. Just grounding yourself in this moment. You might even gently push your toes into the ground, just feeling the connection with the ground and with the earth. And as you're seated here, just try to relax your body. Go ahead, and if there's any tension on your shoulders, just let your shoulders kind of fall. If they were up high, just let them fall to your side. If there's any tension by your eyes, just kind of let your eyes rest. In your mouth and your jaw, the back of your mouth. Just let all of that stress and tension just kind of ease out, melt away. Just feel the sensations of just seated here. And as you're seated here, you can begin to tune into your breath. You're not controlling your breath. Just observe it. Observe it as it comes in and falls away. Just tune into where you feel the breath the most in your body. It might be in your nose, as you feel it enter your nostrils and leave. It might be in your shoulders, as they go up and down with each breath. It might be in your chest, as it rises and falls. It might be in your belly, as you feel it go in and go out. Just notice where you feel the breath the most in your body. This is your access point to the present moment. And as you're breathing, gently, at your own pace, you're going to notice that thoughts will arise. When thoughts arise, just notice that you're thinking them. Maybe you can smile at them. And like a passing cloud, watch thoughts drift off while you gently bring your attention back to where you feel the breath the most. Thinking is perfectly normal. We all think, we all daydream. Just notice when you're thinking and kindly bring your focus back to your breath. Trust the abundant wisdom of your body to breathe just right. Breathe in and out. And resting in the awareness of your breath, thank yourself for doing this practice mini meditation together with us all together today. It's an act of self-care and it's an act of love. And when you're ready and in your own time, you can open your eyes or raise your gaze.
That was great.
So in that breath meditation, for me, I use that a lot, especially with students, to help them understand how to begin to come into the present moment. And so for me, if I'm doing a large group, I'll ask them, where did you feel the breath the most in that brief breath meditation? And some people say in the nose, or the shoulders, or the chest, or the belly, or someplace else even that I didn't mention. But it's important to begin to notice that, because that can be an entryway to the present moment. So breath awareness is just one way to access the present moment. There's sound awareness, there's different types of way, touch, to access the present moment. But for me, breath has been a really helpful way to get in the present moment where everything is okay. And so for me, it's in my chest. And so I often touch my chest before I respond to my children, or in a difficult situation, or before I give a presentation, because I want to be completely authentic and I want that to come across. And if I'm lost in my thoughts, like, are they judging me, or am I saying the right things, or do I sound smart enough, or if I'm doing all that, then I'm not present. So for me, it's very important to access the present moment, and it gives me that power, that space to just be. And for me, the fear subsides, and the mental cognitions that are going on that are telling me, that inner critic, subsides. And it's very helpful, especially when I'm interacting with my kids, with students. So that's I hope that answers a little bit of what you had asked.
Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of specific, there's deep breathing, that's very specific about diaphragmatic breathing, right? That is supposed to, is that a little bit different? Because I think what you were describing was just being aware of your breath, not controlling it. I think
Right.
a lot of people talk about, I've read a lot about the deep breathing, which is intentional, to have that long breath, and that is supposed to be something that brings down, it like activates the parasympathetic nervous system, brings down your anxiety and things like that. Is that a little bit different, or is that kind of just another extension of what you're talking about?
No, it's part of mindfulness, and nasal breathing is very important. And I do this also. I use one of those, I don't know what they're called, origami, where we expand it and then we restrict it. And so nasal breathing is excellent in that it helps to reduce stress, and obviously, like you said, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, and it also brings you into the moment, because when you are completely focused on your breath, when you breathe in, you hold it, and you breathe out, that's all you're not thinking, you're focused. So it's a focused type of mini meditation, let's say. And it's the dual ways that it does almost like it does relieve stress, especially tension that's been built up. So the breath meditation it relieves stress in a different way, because you as far as the cognitions are concerned, that the inner critic, the ruminating, the worrying, the planning, it subsides, because in the moment, you're not worried about all that. Now, that's not to say you can't think about the future in the moment. You can think about the future in the moment, but you are choosing to do that. You're saying, okay, I have a trip coming up. I need to book a hotel. I need to do, and so you are choosing to think about the future and to plan, but you're not lost in your thoughts thinking like, oh my gosh, oh, I'm so scared to go on that plane. Oh, I don't know if I'm going to miss work too long. You're just ruminating. You're not even realizing you're doing it. So everything that, even when you think about the future, it happens in the present. When you're in the past, you're still thinking about the past and the present. So everything happens in the present moment. And so, and for me, the present moment, unless there's an emergency going on, it's usually everything is okay. Everything is okay. Of course, if there's emergency or something's happening, even in the pandemic, in the present moment, right now, everything is okay. So I know we have lockdown, we have all these things going on, but right now I'm with you. I'm safe in my house. I have a cup of coffee and a glass of water in front of me. I'm happy. Everything is good right now. So that helps me.
Yeah, I see a lot of what you're saying, and how we get caught up in, especially with the news that is going on and all the different things. As soon as I click on the news, or there's something going on, right? And so the moment, for some people, I can understand how the moment is never safe, because there's all this turmoil and all these things happening around the world. But the way you're describing it is like, I'm here, I'm okay in this moment, right? And that's what you need to focus on.
Yeah, so that's what helps me. I do have stressors and I do have worries, because that's natural. Part of our brains, we have that negativity bias, right? Where we're that's kind of how we're programmed. But mindfulness is not to walk around like just blissfully happy, joyful all the time, which would be great, right? But it's about being aware of all of your emotions, because once you're aware of it, and you hold it, that validation, it helps me anyway. It helps to let it subside. Like, I recognize it, and then I kind of let it, let it subside. But that only happens in the present moment. And so for me, like, self-compassion is also a huge practice that I implement in my life. And being self-compassionate has helped me during this time in the coronavirus, and just like being a human in general. And so that's self-compassion is another excellent, amazing, powerful tool that's helped me.
And so I want to, of course, encourage people, if you have questions, to put them in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. And I wanted to as I say that, I want to continue on with Anjanette about some of her. So what we did, the basic exercise that we just did, if someone is by themselves, what is the easiest way you would recommend for someone to integrate, even in a small way, some kind of mindfulness in their daily life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, how I started was I heard about mindfulness. Okay, so what is this mindfulness? And I start reading about it, and it talks about, what it is mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment with using all of your senses. And there's daily mindfulness. I'm being mindful right now, where I see you all, and I feel the table, and I smell the food cooking. Like that's in the mindfulness of the present moment. But in order to be able to practice more mindful, this is what we want, I think, more daily mindfulness. Meditation is a way to help train your brain to be able to access the present moment and stay in it for longer. And so for me, I said, okay, meditation, all right? So I started with breath meditation, focusing on my breath. And so what I started doing is I would meditate for like 1 minute, because that was like, I don't know how people could do it for any longer than 1 minute, you know? So I meditate for 1 minute and I focus on my breath, and it was so hard. I remember, and I was like, am I doing this right? And so I literally say, breathe in, because my mind was going so fast that I literally would say, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. I would say that over and over, because the only way where I would not be lost in my thoughts was if I had this anchor of saying, breathe in, breathe out. And I would do that for a minute. And I did that every day. And I remember, and then I started meditating. So for me, it's start small. Start with an attainable goal that you think you will do, like 1 minute or 2 minutes a day. And just like going to the gym. So when I go to the gym, if I go to the gym one time and I use the weights and I run on the treadmill and I come home, I'm not going to look as toned as I'm like, I don't look toned. I don't get it. You know, I went to the gym today. So it takes me a while. I need to literally go to the gym for like 6 months, sometimes even a year, till I notice my arms look stronger. It's the same thing with mindfulness. So mindfulness is you're training your brain. It's exercise, and you're training your brain to access the present moment and stay in it longer. So it does take time. And so you might not feel like, I don't get it. I've been meditating for a couple minutes a day for 6 months or a year, and I don't know if it's helping me. I've been there. That was me. I meditated every day for a few minutes a day for years. I think it was like 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I don't even know if this is helping me or not, but I'm going to keep doing it because I read it's good. And then like after the 3rd year, for me, I mean, maybe it was like the 2nd, 3rd year, I remember where I didn't meditate like for like, I think it was a few days, something happened. I couldn't meditate and I felt it. And I was like, I feel off. I don't feel like I'm balanced. I don't feel centered. My brain is going a mile a minute. And I actually felt the benefits of it for me. And so now I've done it for a longer period of time and I'm still learning. I'm no expert. Nobody is an expert. I mean, so there's this thing. It's like, you don't want to be an expert in mindfulness, right? You want to be an expert in life. You don't want to be an expert in how to meditate. You want to be an expert in bringing joy to everyday life, right? It's about living better. It's not about being an expert meditator, right? But meditation is a way to, to be in the moment for longer periods of time. And so I think Harvard did a study, and I think they said our brain like even right now while I'm talking, you're thinking about like Chick-fil-A or, what you're going to do the presentation tomorrow or your email you have to answer. And that's normal, right? But you want to notice your thinking and come back. And Harvard did a study and said our brain wanders over 50% of the time. So that's normal. But that means that we are not present in our lives for more than half of our life. And that is, especially when I bring it back full circle to the beginning, when I heard I had some horrible autoimmune, could have had this autoimmune disease where I might not have been around for very long. I wanted every moment to count, and I wanted to be present, especially with my children, every moment with them. So for me, I want to learn how to be here more now, be in the present more now. So I think that meditation is just like your exercise. It's like you're going to the gym. You're strengthening your brain.
And Marka has had a question or just had a comment about the importance. Can you talk about the importance of quiet and silence? Like that space, do you need to go? And so, because a lot of us have, maybe it's hard. I've heard people say, well, I can go to my car. That's the only where I can get some silence. Do you need that time by yourself with that quiet and that silence?
Good question. I think mindfulness or meditation is easier when it's quiet, to be honest, but that's not the point of it, right? Actually, the point of it is to be aware of everything that's going on. And so I have it's not a great story. I think it's a funny story though. I was in a mindfulness class and we were all meditating together. And it was on Zoom, and my dog was crying. I had put her upstairs, and she was in the bedroom crying. And then I remember thinking, oh, why is she crying? I'm trying to meditate, and it was so loud, and I was like, I wish she would just be quiet, right? And then I noticed, I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm being judgmental, and I'm feeling angry, and I'm like, but why am I doing this? And I shifted it, and I said, let me listen to her cry, and I tuned into her crying even more, and I said, all I want to hear is I want to hear her, and I heard her whimper, but it was like a different cry. It was like, I love you so much cry that I want to be with you. And it made me think, oh my gosh, she loves me so much that she wants to be next to me. And it transformed my anger, which I had this anger originally, like, why is she being so loud when I'm trying to meditate, to this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my whole life. It's pure love directed at me, and like I wanted to hear more of it, right? And so that's what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is paying attention to whatever is, right? So if there's clunking going on, if there's construction going on, you tune into it, you're aware of it. So it's not about not thinking, and it's not about total quiet. It's about what is around me, and experiencing it all. So yeah, so you don't need quiet, but quiet is probably easier, right? But you don't need it.
And just another follow-up question related to that. What about, people incorporate music a lot into meditation. It seems maybe that might, based on what you're saying, that might be, well, I don't know. I guess it could be distracting, but it could be something else to focus on and appreciate. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, it's just like, so I access the present moment from my breath. That's the easiest way for me. But some people access the present moment by touch. And so when they're meditating, they're touching their hands. And when they touch their hands, it brings them back to the present moment. It's that physical touch. Some access the present moment through sound. And so many times, if it's completely silent, there'll be a bell that'll be rung to bring you back to to make sure you're back in the moment. So yeah, music is a beautiful way, because but your intention is to hear the music and to bring you back to what you're hearing, not hear the music and then start thinking about your presentation next week and get lost in this unconscious kind of thoughts that go on. So you want to be whatever works best for you, I guess, to bring you into the present.
And let me, I know you have to leave at 4. And so let me try to summarize a little bit, and you can tell me if I'm getting it right.
Yeah.
So the idea of living in the moment, being mindfulness is a daily thing that you want to have. You want to be mindful in life, and you want to be in the moment to where you can be reflecting rather than reacting, right? Something, or responding rather than reacting. So when something happens, you're able to ground yourself, bring yourself, and make intentional decisions, informed decisions. When you speak, everything, when you respond to something, it's thoughtful and reflective. It's not just reactive. And in that way, you're living an intentional, mindful life, and you're also reducing a lot of stress. But in order to build that skill, meditation is something that you implement in small doses throughout maybe the day or the week, and that builds your ability to live the mindful life, I guess.
Yeah, yes, correct. And yes, so you summarized that so nicely. And the only thing I would add is that you might start with 1 minute or 2 minutes, but you might find, like, so for now, I'll meditate for, an hour usually. And so, and sometimes I put the timer on because I'm afraid I'm just going to keep meditating. But you increase it, and it's just practice. So you want to start small, but the point for meditation is to do it, if you can, every day, in enough doses so that it becomes so natural that you're teaching yourself how to access the present moment and stay in there just for a little bit longer, before you go back, because we're all going to go back into our thoughts, but then you're going to be able to come back, and you want that awareness. And remember, the second you notice you're thinking, you're mindful, which is so powerful for me, So the second, I'm thinking, I'm being mindful right now. I noticed that I was thinking. So that's really important.
So let me open it up. I guess I know we have a few minutes left before Angelina has to leave, but some questions, comments. You can either use the chat or unmute your mic.
If I could just say something briefly, this is Mark. When I was talking about quiet and silence, I wasn't referring to being in a quiet room when you meditate, although as you point out, that's helpful, but rather that that is a desirable end state, that the mind becomes quieter, and one's consciousness becomes more silent and calm. And in the world of chatter and noise and talk and running around and overthinking and being anxious, that quiet space that's achieved through mindfulness, as you use the word, centers you in such a way that it grants you some perspective on it and brings you back to that present moment in such a way that the noise sort of falls away. That's sort of what I was thinking about the importance of quiet, inner quiet, rather than external quiet.
Right. No, I agree with that. And I love it also, and I thank you for bringing this up, the perspective part of it. So for me, when I'm able to, as you say, kind of bring that stillness, I feel like I'm able to see things in a bigger way, so that's really helpful. So I like that you brought in perspective there too. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks. Mark says, it's been great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. I just wanted to give you a little bit from my personal experience. I think that's helpful when you hear people talk about mindfulness, but I wanted you that you're listening today to hear my background and hear my journey, and hope that you connected with some of it, or some of it resonated with you, and that you found it helpful. So that makes me happy. So thank you.
And what I took out of it, the big thing is I've never thought about it as much. I've kind of just thought about it. I haven't really intentionally thought about it the way you described it, is separating how the meditation is connected to the mindfulness in a way that is a lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not just, like I meditate and then that's it. And that's my meditation time. Then the rest I'm back to, but it's actually impacts the way you actually, your day-to-day living, right? And so it changes.
Yeah, that's it. That was so well said. Yes.
Okay. So if we'll stay on for another 2-3 minutes. No one has any questions. I know you have to leave, and Jeanette, you have another meeting at 4 o'clock. So yeah, thank you. And I also wanted to ask, I know we only have 10 people here today, but I know it kind of varies, but for the future, what types of sessions we can continue in this theme, or if there's other specific topics that people are interested in, I guess they can contact Annette. Can they contact you, or how should we kind of maybe get some feedback from participants on what kind of topics they may be interested in?
Yes, of course. I was actually just going to say thank you to Anjanette for the information that you shared with us today. It's definitely very helpful. And we do have a lot of our programs listed already on our website for future dates. So you can definitely visit utep.edu/MOM, and I'll put it also in the chat for those of you interested in joining in any future webinars, discussions, panel-like events. But if you do have any specific topics, questions, or an area that you would like more information on, please let us know. You can contact the Student Engagement and Leadership Center, SELC at utep.edu, and just give us your feedback, and we'll take that into consideration for, you know, the future events. Hopefully get some other of our campus partners, community partners on board to be able to provide these resources. So thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Carola, for moderating today's discussion.
And I will say, just in kind of closing, I'm going to try to do one next Thursday. I don't know yet, but hopefully by Monday we'll know. I'm trying to get. I'll see. I can have a topic, but we'll try to have that by Monday. Just have that decided by Monday. But if not, if we miss next week, we'll definitely do it the week after. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for showing up.
Yes, thank you so much. Everyone have a great afternoon.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.